population that relates to certain populations to ensure that our students have just a varied type of supports that they can tap into while here at Cal State Long Beach. Awesome. Now, I'm not sure how many of you in the audience are familiar with mental health services. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of a therapist. Oftentimes we were, in a very colloquial way referred to as like shrinks or things like that. And, I always think about the very comedic lens of how our counselors or psychologists are often referred to on television and social media with this leather couch and, someone who's just constantly asking about your feelings. But quite honestly, we are a group that are basically open and available to our students. So oftentimes we find that our students might be in a state of distress and therefore seeking another level of support. So basically maybe what they have been trying and what they have been doing is not working at that time. Oftentimes students come to us needing a space, whether it's a space to process or come together. Oftentimes also we find students who are seeking community. And like I was sharing, coming from a very community mindset of the more we can build community or expand our network, oftentimes that it's more that might be warranted than an actual individual ongoing long-term therapy session. So really what it comes down to, I like to, although we often and I often get this question from students too, like, how do I know I need to? And I always say, you don't have to be at this point of a complete distress, or you don't have to be at this point where you're feeling the worst. It's when you need a space and you believe that having another layer of support will support you, that is when you can come through our doors, or that is when you're, where we often find folks coming through our doors. They can come through our doors anytime they want. I just want to be clear. But that is often when we find students who will come pop in at CAPS. Next slide. So an overview, we are a small but mighty team, I will say. And it always excites me to share about the robustness of types of services and supports that we're able to offer our students. Because once again, oftentimes, when you think of a counseling office, I'll often hear from folks and they'll say, oh yeah, it's, they imagine a therapy or counseling to look one way, but it really doesn't look just one way. It's really, thankfully, we have the opportunity of it looking and being a bunch of different ways. So we offer a variety of things here at CAPS, from brief individual counseling. So that would be a one-on-one session with an individual. Oftentimes that starts with an initial, what we call an initial consultation, where someone can come in and at that point in their discussion with the counselor, it'd be determined whether or not they might need something different than what we're able to offer, or they, or we can definitely see them within our space. Group counseling, because there's definitely benefits in coming together with individuals with either a similar narrative, a similar story, a similar struggle, or just wanting to build community. So we really, really take a lot of pride in our group spaces, because what I've learned since my short time here at Long Beach is that a lot of universities aren't doing so well in their group counseling. And it's nothing to say about the university, but it's something that we take a lot of pride in, that we have a number of different group counseling opportunities for our students to connect with others. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Crisis counseling. So we have a number of different resources where María, ¿es posible si quiere hablar más tarde, después de la orientación, que le puedo dar la información, okay? One of the participants is asking if they can get the presentation in Spanish. So crisis counseling, we have what we call our on-call support. And what that would do is basically students can come in between 9 and 5 and receive, and basically can be immediately connected with a counselor or therapist at that time. Usually those are when a student maybe has an urgency in that moment where something is impacting them, having had struggles, maybe connect, just whatever is going on in that moment. We have basically a one-stop shop support. We're actually changing the name from crisis counseling to on-call counseling. And it's not also just limited to students. There are times when a faculty member might want to come with us to consult about perhaps situations that it might be resulting in a classroom setting or different group dynamics, and we're definitely available to support with that. Referrals, help with referrals is one of our big ticket items, because we know that we are only one of the resources here on campus. And so we have a wide network of resources that might be here in the community of Long Beach, might also be out of the community, because we know that sometimes it might be easier for a student to access a resource maybe where they reside. We are a large commuter school, and so it's not uncommon for me to say, hey, where do you live? Hey, would it be easier for you to access a similar resource in the community that you're residing? And so we definitely help support with that. And it's also really important to note that oftentimes our referrals are not just to counseling or other counseling-like services. We believe very firmly in referrals to other forms of healing practices. And I say this here, I know that some folks might not be, maybe aren't as aware, or maybe don't have as much, but like acupuncture is definitely a healing practice. Different, trying to think of, it's not uncommon that, we referred a student to a doula because that might help, and the stressor was childbirth. And so, there's just different ways in which we can get creative. Medication consultation, because we do have a psychiatrist on staff, she is able to provide consultation regarding medication, even prescribed medication should it be necessary. And lastly, outreach. We believe in, once again, mental health and wellness practices across the campus. We are a resource to the campus in any way, shape, or form as it relates to mental health and wellness. We were, for those of you who don't know, Week of Welcome was or the activities of Week of Welcome in regards to the big outreach events that happened just finished today, and we were out there. We had multiple tables promoting health and wellness. Sometimes we go into classrooms and speak on it, or we're actually even working on. We have an initiative to support our faculty to become more mental health and wellness focus forward, and thinking about how they can promote that within their classrooms as well. In addition, we create spaces that are not necessarily so formalized, and we call them our drop-in spaces or let's talk spaces. And lastly, peer programming, because hey, I can share with students all I want, but it's so much more powerful when someone like them, their peer, is able to share this information about mental health and wellness. So we firmly believe also in creating as many peer opportunities for our students. Lots of information. I apologize if that was too much, but please be ready with questions for the end, okay? How do I make an appointment? So easy. Give us a call. Our students can give us a call. Our students can call in, walk in also during our open hours between 9 to 5. Now you might be asking, well, I care for someone who's a student here. There's someone in my heart who I might be concerned about. You can also call, but we cannot speak specifically about a student or schedule an appointment for them. They would need to do that. These services are confidential. We uphold that to the highest, whatever it is, to the highest, because confidentiality is an important part of our practice, and ensuring that this is a brave space for those individuals. But it is also not uncommon that we've had parents call and consult and say, hey, can we find out a bit more about your resource? I want to share this with my young person or my student or my parents, caregivers, those who care about our students. When a student calls, they are asked if they want to schedule an initial consultation, or if it's an immediate concern, they will be immediately directed to a counselor. If it's initial consultation, that's typically where there's not an urgency in that moment, and we typically schedule them out maybe either for during the remainder of the week or the following week. And lastly, there is a set of documentation, because at any time we are going in to meet with an individual, anybody want to learn a little bit about them, maybe what is their concern, what's going on, can they share a little bit about how they're feeling in that moment, so we can make sure that we provide whatever is the best resource or proper service in that moment. So crisis or urgent matters, and I often stay away. To me, a crisis is actually kind of a really extreme, but a lot of times, and we might not think it's a crisis, but it might feel like an urgency. So I tend to use the word urgency a lot when I am talking to students. But the idea is that when they have a urgency, in that moment, they have a concern that they are having trouble navigating, and it might be difficult to go through the rest of the day to navigate that. They are absolutely welcome to call in or come in. As you can see, here's our number. We will be we make ourselves available to our students. We always have 2 on-call counselors available for that. And here we have some examples of how why someone might come to us. It doesn't have to be these are just some kind of common things that we have seen when a student comes to us during on-call. Yeah, so it's a little bit about our crisis, but I want to just reiterate, it's as easy as just calling in. The other thing that can happen is, even when we're closed, we still have an after hours resource of individuals who call, or who licensed individuals who will respond to the calls if a student calls after hours. So definitely something to relay to your students about. This is something that we have available at all times, not just during our regular business hours. Let's see. Drop-in spaces. Yeah, so drop-in spaces. So once again, we really try to also get out of the mindset of therapy or counseling has to look a certain way. Once again, we all think of like what we've seen on TV, and some of us even shy away, like, oh, I don't want to be in that. And I wouldn't blame that for a student either. Man, I don't know how comfortable I'm going to be on a leather couch. I'm just kidding. There's no leather couches here. Well, actually, one of our offices might have it, but point being is that another couple opportunities that we have for students to have a space is, we call it our drop-in spaces, or our let's talk spaces. We have a variety of them. And actually, if you happen to have come on campus recently, we just put out the marketing for them, because they're starting up again very soon. We have them located at different offices, not just here at our CAPS office. We, once again, so with this community mindset, we believe very firmly in ensuring that we are as accessible to students as possible. And so what we do know is that some students might be here at Brotman Hall and some students might not be here at Brotman Hall. And so the idea would be, what other spaces can we offer them in? There's our BMAC office, we have a drop-in space. We have a drop-in space at our Dream Success Center. So we believe the campus is our community, and so utilizing our community to its fullest to see where else we can outreach to students is really important. Our drop-in spaces are very much community-like. Folks can come in and out. Our Let's Talk spaces are more individualized, where a student can schedule time one-on-one with one of the counselors to meet with them. And I want to just pause for a moment. I am going to answer the question in Spanish, if that's okay, because there is a question specifically about if the information can be offered in Spanish. Que sí es posible darles la información en español, y voy a averiguar con Cameron si podemos hacer otra orientación en español quizás. So Cameron, I noted that maybe it's possible for us to do another orientation in Spanish if it's possible in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So the drop-in spaces, I'm going to finish up this statement that I just remembered. we once again also we believe very much in the reflection of our student community, and also very much in creating spaces specifically for communities that would benefit from it. Now, I will say it is thanks to student input and to our team's input to say, hey, we need a space for this, or hey, students are saying this, can we create a space for this? So that is really what has been the inspiration of a number of our drop-in spaces. And as we go to the next slide, you'll see just the variety that we have, and more are being developed as we go. Rainbow Cafe, that is definitely focused for our LGBTQA population. Black Table Talk is for our Black and African descent students. Sticky Rice at the Beach for our AAPI students. Spoon Check is focused on a Spoon Check is focused on our any students with a disability. Butterfly Empowerment Circle is definitely focused for our students who are first gen. Buddies Connect at the Beach. Actually, I'll come back to Buddies Connect at the Beach in just a moment, but Thoughtful Thursdays is a mindfulness group. So that's not necessarily an affinity group, but it's definitely a mindfulness group. We also have our sister friends. Our Latinas at the Beach is focusing on our Latina population. What's cool also is they have an upcoming conference. So if any of your students identify as Latinx female, they are welcome to register for the conference. Really excited about that. Actually, one of our doctoral interns here at CAPS is a keynote speaker, and she's one powerhouse, and she's going to be the right person to convey the powerful message that she has within her own life history and her commitment to the community and her commitment to the students. Buddies Connect at the Beach. This is a fun one because this is really big on our peer program. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but our peer programming is run by our program out of CAPS called Project Ocean. And it is really, truly beautifully crafted, illustrated, all those things by our peers. So they are students who are here on campus, who are being trained within mental health practices. They are not clinicians, but they do know a lot of things about creating wellness spaces for our students. Last semester, they did I think it was like a succulent pop-up where we were able to have students, oh my goodness, I'm not very good at gardening, so I'm even trying to think of what the terms would be. Basically plant succulents in these pots and decorate it, and come up with these affirmations. That's what I'm trying to say. But they have a number of activities coming up soon this semester. So if your student hasn't heard of them, you're always welcome to reach out to me, reach out to our CAPS office, or they can pop in. We have all that information. I'd be happy to share it with you because it's really fun stuff. So these are our drop-in spaces. Oh, another thing I forgot to note is that we do our best to be to work with the student's preference. So if a student is able to meet in person, great, we're here for you. We're on campus 100% of the time. But if a student also would prefer to meet via Zoom, guess what? That's great too. We make that available as well. And as you can see here, our drop-in community spaces, some are on Zoom, some are in person. And what's also cool is that on our Beach Sync page, that's the hub of all of the activities within the Division of Student Affairs. It might even be within all of campus. I just know how it relates to our program. But basically, we are putting all information out there. I mean, and I even want to note, last week we did hold a couple drop-in spaces to acknowledge the Lunar New Year tragedy. We even held one on Friday as the footage was being released regarding Tyree Nichols. And I just feel it's really important for us to note that we wanted to be just available to our students, have a space to process, to come together, to build community, because these are very hard things to experience and to see. So this just some of the ways in which we are intentionally wanting to support our students. We can go to the next slide, Cameron. Let's talk. So as we talked about, Let's Talk is a space. It's not, both are drop-in spaces and Let's Talk. They're not necessarily formal spaces. It's not, but what Let's Talk is, it is more one-on-one. So a drop-in is folks can come in, they're in a space together, but Let's Talk, you would schedule one-on-one. So we have our BMAC, we have a space at our BMAC office. BMAC is our Bob Murphy Access Center. So we have one of our clinicians there. We have one of our clinicians supporting Black Talk via Zoom. And like I said, we also have a one at the Dream Success Center. We call it the DSC for short. So we make that available. And what's great is also, I think, important to note that the clinicians who are supporting these, this has been very much based on youth voice, student voice, student experience sharing. Hey, can we have more of these? And we're looking to create more opportunities where our students can come together in different spaces with our CAPS counselors. And in order for a student to RSVP, as you can see here, we've noted the scheduling thingy there, the link there. So hopefully it makes it as easy as possible for our students to come together. And, once again, our counseling service is not about, sitting an ongoing therapy session. It might be as, it might be just as well for someone to come into Let's Talk or to jump into one of the drop-in spaces, or it might be, I want to schedule an actual session with a counselor, and sessions are typically 50 minutes long. I always get really excited also to talk about our peer programming, which is our next slide, because once again, there is nothing like sharing with folks who maybe have a lived experience, or folks who look like you. I think a lot about the student experience is so powerful, and especially when you hear it from another student. Project Ocean is a program that we take a lot of pride in. It is continuously growing. And I say that very just proud of what the team has done to ensure its growth, because once again, students want to hear from students. They run suicide prevention workshops across campus. They do a number of mental health awareness activities, including like our Beach Buddies Connect at the Beach, which I shared about earlier. That's definitely something that comes from our Project Ocean, and it's with their ideas. The students come from a number of backgrounds, number of degrees, a number of majors that they're currently pursuing, undergrad and graduate. So you can see that just with what a beautiful culmination of folks who want to learn or to be a part of this promotion of mental health and wellness, and they are coming together doing it here through Project Ocean. It was really fun because midday, as I was part of the week of welcome activity, supporting supporting our team, and seeing how the peer mentors, we call them peer mentors, were there, and they were creating so much life at their table. I mean, it felt like, I was going into a, for anyone, not just me, but everyone who walked by their table, it was like they were being cheered on for the next, sports event that they were going into or something. So there's just such a great energy coming from them. They really all are focused on destigmatizing mental health, supporting others into seeking support and help. Once again, it's not this idea of how bad do you have to be to get help. It's, hey, if we normalize it, if we talk about mental health and wellness, if we make this a regular part of our practice, ideally we would see less crises. Ideally, someone is not at their breaking point when they are then accessing support. We will all learn to navigate and cope in different ways and whatnot. Well, one fun fact that I want to share is that we've also built a partnership with our rec center, because they have their, sports, of course. Health and wellness is often associated with physical activity, but we know that if we think about it comprehensively, it's it's about the mind, it's about the heart as well. So they have created a space for one of our counselors to be there as well. What better place than for folks to gather, right, than at the gym, right? And hey, you can not only pop into the gym and do your workout, you know, you get your physical, get all those endorphins working, but then you go into a therapy session or a drop-in space or whatnot with one of our clinicians there, our counselors there. And then, hey, the other cool thing about our gym is that you can go get a massage there too, or you can go get acupuncture there. So there's a lot of opportunity there, which I think is really cool. One last thing about our peer programming is through our Beach Buddy and mentoring, they are about just like I said, creating more opportunities for our students. There, we refer to them as our peer mentors. And they have just a really, really special role and presence on campus because of the way they're being trained and the language that they speak in regards to mental health and wellness. So lots of good stuff happening at CAPS. I'll be honest with you, I could go on and on and on forever because I have so much fun talking about the different things that this team does. One other fun fact, sorry, before we get into the last slide is that, like, for example, in this effort to really utilize the fullness of our campus, you know, it's thinking through what other spaces are available to us. You know, I think about, for those of you who have had a chance to visit the campus, when we look at our Japanese garden, our Earl Miller Japanese garden, it's a beautiful space. And can we promote health and wellness in there? Sometimes it's about our environment as well. And, you know, Cal State Long Beach has a lot of beautiful space. There's this walkway over by where the athletic fields are, and there's eucalyptus trees. And I always think, oh my gosh, this is such a great wellness space. I don't have the best sense of smell. When I walk through there, I'm calmed by the smell of eucalyptus. So there's just so many opportunities here. And I think if we can continue promoting it, we can use different parts of our campus community to support that. Sorry, Cameron, I know I could go on. So lastly, my name is Amanda. I'm always happy to answer any questions about the resources we have here at CAPS. Like I said, congratulations to you for making a decision to send your student, your person, here to Cal State Long Beach. It is a campus, like I said, that promotes health, wellness with an overarching mental health plan. We want to destigmatize any of those concerns, any of those pieces that have limited the community's access to resources, and we at CAPS just fully uphold and adhere to that. It's easy to find us here at Brotman Hall, and I will also put my email address in the chat should anyone have any questions. And I will let you, Cameron, if you want to support fielding any questions or whatnot, but you let me know how we take this from here.
Of course, yeah. So if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat now, or you could raise your hand. There was a question earlier. A parent asked, are parents allowed to contact you to ask your office to reach out to a student because of parent concern of crisis?
So I would say, if there's an immediate concern of crisis, it actually would be in your best interest to call our university police department that has a dispatch office, or their dispatch office. Depending on the type of concern, they will execute or enforce that their mental health response team, that is a mobile team, can go support, or if it requires the university police presence, they will dispatch that office. So it would actually be, if there is a immediate concern for someone's safety. So, and then Ms. Chandra, I will then talk about the other piece of how you can reach us. But if there's an immediate concern for safety, I would say go that way. Call our university police department, because the dispatchers there have direct access to our mobile mental health crisis team. Now, if there's questions of concern that are not necessarily an immediate crisis, there's not a safety concern, then definitely call us. Now, we can't necessarily, if we are not, if in the end, we can only offer a certain level of supports. It's when that student then can directly connect with us. And if they become a client of ours, then we can offer definitely a lot more support. But it's not uncommon that a parent has called us asking, you know, some sort of consultation and what resources were available on campus for their student. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Amanda. Let's see. Joseph, where can we get a copy of this presentation? So I will be posting this presentation onto the Beach Family Portal. And I'll move to the next slide so you can see where to join that. All our Fireside chats will be posted here, and I will also be posting it on the parent and family Facebook page, so you can access it there as well. All right, Amanda, I don't know if you see that question we just got right now too.
No, I don't.
I'll go ahead and let's see. My student is a second year and it feels like after the first year there isn't much support. RA checkups. It would be helpful if RAs checked in more and could suggest CAPs if they feel a student is struggling.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I think I think across campus we're definitely wanting to promote health and wellness a lot more. You know, if you have a concern for the student, you know, please don't shy away from sharing this information with them as well. If possible, you know, you could walk your student over to us if that's accessible to you. I think also, you know, if there's once again, if there's a safety concern or kind of an immediate, like an urgency, right? There's nothing that would keep me from saying, hey, go reach out to that director or that person, and if there need to be additional support, absolutely. In the end, also note that our services, though, they are completely voluntary, so we can never force it upon anyone. We don't do any also court mandated type of therapy, so in the end it has to be the individual wanting it. But I hear you about wanting to make sure everyone is sharing out this information that I'm sharing.
Thank you, Amanda. We also got another question asking, how many sessions can my student meet for? I think they're saying, like, is there a limited amount of sessions they can meet?
Yeah, so we typically are not a long-term therapy model because of the academic calendar. What we find is if students start in the beginning of a semester, usually by the end of the semester, they are transitioning out, partly because that's kind of how the academic calendar just works. But in addition, if there were continuous support that's needed, it would not be uncommon for us to identify that maybe earlier on and connect the individual to that a longer term resource. So we don't necessarily have a cap, but I will say that it is uncommon that we will continue therapy in between the semesters because we find that students have typically dropped off during that time. Just, you know, they're no longer on campus, so it doesn't necessarily fit within their schedule at that time.
Thank you. Another person was asking, does CAPS work with the CARES team, and like what is the CARES team here on campus?
Yeah, and I can share a little bit about CARES. I don't know that I'm going to be the best resource in explaining exactly, and I don't know, Cameron, you might be able to add into what CARES does, but CARES is a mental health support for, and basically campus professionals can refer students who might have some concerns or struggles to CARES, and CARES supports their linkage to other resources, whether it's on campus or off campus. I do work with CARES because sometimes, you know, we have students that would benefit from a CARES referral and linkage to other resources. I'm trying to make sure that I covered all the things that I wanted to about CARES. I don't know. I hope that helps. And Cameron, I don't know if you have anything to add in regards to CARES.
I know it's more for short-term crisis interventions, but other than that, I don't know a whole lot about it.
So they're more of a linkage. They can do some check-ins, but they are not an long-term ongoing. They're more on the case management check-in versus therapy.
Did you see that next? Are there programs in the campus that create awareness on the impacts of use of illicit drugs on mental health?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Miss Dorothy. I'm still very new to the campus. I would not doubt that there are. I just would not be able to speak to them. So I just don't have that information, as I'm still very much acclimating to the different resources that we have. I also know, Miss Dorothy, that we're seeing I'm not necessarily going to say specific to the campus, but I think across this age group, um, greater use of drugs. I think, we've, for those of us in LA, we've seen a lot of fentanyl use within the high schools and whatnot. So, I can see why this concern would, or this question would even come up. Definitely a concern. I just unfortunately can't speak to it. It's something I'm also very interested in because, we know it's out there and we know we need to, promote as much careful decision making, when considering any type of drug use.
I do think we have a program that discusses all of
Great.
that. I'll post the resource for that in the chat right
Awesome.
now. And then Chandra was asking, what is the phone number again? I'm not sure if you mean for the New Student and Family Program office or the CAPS office, but I reposted that on the screen so that everybody could see the CAPS information again.
And I put in my email address in the chat. I will note it again. Please definitely send me an email if you have any questions. I'd be happy to connect with you. And I'm also say that in Spanish, sí, claro que sí, que me pueden mandar un email. Aquí estoy para servirles. So I'm here to support any way that I can.
Thank you, Amanda. And I'm putting that website for the alcohol and drug abuse
Cool.
and tobacco information into the chat right now. Do we have any more questions before we end today's meeting? No. Okay, well, I just want to say thank you again, everybody, for coming. Amanda, that was a whole lot of really useful information. CAPS is a great resource here on campus. As a fellow social worker, I am totally about CAPS and supporting it. Let's see, do we have any more questions? Of course, thank you, everybody, for coming. And then finally, I just want to ask that as you continue to attend our fireside chats, if you would please fill out our evaluation, and I'll put that into the chat right now. We just want to make sure we're sending out information as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And so if you have any suggestions, we'd love if you could let us know in our evaluation link here. And once again, thank you everybody for attending, and we hope to see you at the next fireside chat. Thank you, Amanda.
Bye.